Welcome, everybody. I'm going to be answering questions that are appropriate. As you guys know, we are streaming here, so we're trying to get that watch time. We're trying to get that watch time hours going, so I'm going to be answering questions that are appropriate. Oh, poor bear. Good job. Oh shit, Brenna. Hold on. So, let me turn on filter. Oh, she's so cute. Oh my god, Loco. Okay, I just gave you mod here, Loco. So. Alright, oh yeah, just so you guys know, 8 Ball has been dishonorably demodded. 8 Ball rage quit because he's white, so. Yeah, 8 Ball, you know, he's it's not a big shock. He's dispositioned for this kind of behavior because he's white. I was talking shit about white people and 8 Ball rage quit. That's all to it. But yeah, we're gonna be answering questions that are appropriate. Also, like I said, all my social medias are located over in the link me. Yeah, no, man. It's like, yeah, like I said, 8 Ball was a mod um for a while. Like, this is why I said, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if 8 Ball was making alts, because I know 8 Ball's watching. So 8 Ball just kind of proved my point, you know, after 8 Ball's behaviors, yeah, we are definitely not modding white males after that. Alright, let's watch. Holy shit. So apparently claviculars I got, boy, what the fuck is that? Oh, isn't that like a prostitute?
And I haven't cleaned in 3 months.
So there's a video calling clavicular a prostitute.
Twice a month through Homoglow. Let's talk about how much that actually cost me. So using Homoglow, the first cost was $39. A crazy good deal for 4. The popular streamer Clavicular is being funded by a tech billionaire who wants to ruin the world. Clavicular has been receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from a mystery billionaire who is obsessed with Clavicular's movement, from looks maxing to bone smashing to injecting peptides and further body modifications. Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal and one of the scariest billionaires out there, likes how Clavicular is mainstreaming ideologies that he's been trying to fund for decades. This relationship has become interesting because it seems like Clavicular is one of Peter's yacht boys, and Peter has assumed the position of tech sugar daddy. And together, these two are trying to ruin society. So let's get into it.
Ruin society.
Peter Thiel trying to get in your. Dude, that was the craziest one. I swear.
Niggas, you played that perfectly, bro. Yeah, I got blacklisted from his events now.
You guys really enjoyed my video about the modern beauty standards and how extreme they've gotten. And Clavicular, whose name is Braden, but he goes by Clavicular online, which is a reference to collarbones, he's part of the problem between looks maxing and bone smashing, where he's literally injuring his own face. He's starting this movement, and a lot of people are curious as to who is funding this movement, which made me want to do a deep dive. And what I found is that it seems like there's some ties between Clavicular and Peter Thiel. Remember whenever Clavicular went to New York Fashion Week for like a runway that he did? It actually turns out that the brand that he walked for is also funded by Peter Thiel. If you don't know who Peter Thiel is, he founded PayPal, and he's also done a lot of other things, some things that some people would refer to as evil. I'm talking about his company Plantier, where they want to pretty much control the world. And Clavicular seems like the perfect guy for Peter to go and fund. I guess like Peter Thiel is his like sugar daddy in this situation. I feel like Clavicular is pretty much a yacht boy, and it seems like Peter is benefiting from the messages that like Clavicular is pushing out there, the peptides, the testosterone, the body modifications that Peter is so obsessed with. This
Make
person
sure you
writes
guys
very
are leaving
similar
a
to what
thumbs up.
Epstein did as well. These ghouls try to control everything in small ways that add up to make the world a little bit more stupid and easier to manipulate for their gain. May Peter Thiel die soon and release this world from his cancer. Amen. There's a lot of people who do not like Peter. Holy F, this makes sense now. The way the Clav's been talking about relationships, like their investment opportunities, I thought this guy was hopped up on every drug on the planet speaking nonsense. He's being effing paid to be a puppet. Just another blood boy for Peter Thiel. If you don't know, look it up. Seriously. Another person says that he's been doing a lot more than just funding Clavicular. That boy is earning them funds. And it does seem like Peter Thiel is using Clavicular to go and push his messaging. I know somebody, how do I talk about this? Well, let's just say I have connections to Peter Thiel, and I've seen the kind of messages that he sends to men, and it's fascinating. I wouldn't be surprised if like he's interested in Clavicular, not only to push his ideologies, but also to kind of hit on him, try to like pay him to be gay. If you were to ask Clavicular about his relationship with Peter Thiel, he will say that he has none. But I don't think that that is fully true.
Are you funded by Peter Thiel? Don't lie.
Fortunately not.
Damn it. That was
Unless,
chat.
unless you block kick.
Really? Okay, so
Let's see.
why are people saying you're funded by Peter Thiel?
I don't know. That's an interesting one because
I'm confused, bro. Like, if he was, I would know by now at least. Right?
how would you know?
I got tentacles everywhere.
Um, Yeah, so no, I mean, I just have a huge clipping budget. That's really what pushes it. People want to make up all these conspiracy theories like about Peter Thiel and all this stuff. It's like, I wish I was getting millions of dollars into my pocket and all this crazy shit. But it's like, no, it's just a huge clipping budget because they benefit themselves, right? From my clips going viral, people seeing that kick tag and then coming and watching people gambling on stage.
It does seem like Clavicular came out of nowhere. I know that he started his online life in forums and he was kind of an awkward dude, but then as soon as he started streaming, it seems like all this money came.
Wait, what? Am I still friends with 8 Ball? I don't know. I mean, I don't think a friend rage quits and goes, Demon, Demon, Demon. I don't think a friend fucking cracks out like that. I mean, I think that, a chimp I don't think friends have public chimp outs. So what do you guys think, chat? Yeah, guys. Does a friend have a public chimp out and go, Demon, 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 Demon? Do friends do that? Oh, and Raps is a typical fucking enabling abusive man behavior. Typical man enabling of fucking woman abusing behaviors. Nothing new. Nothing new here. What is this? So what does a sustain pedal do in the piano? Man, you guys are fucking retarded. What does a sustain pedal do on a piano? Man, you stupid worthless men. What do you think, bitch? What does the sustain? Like, you dumb fuck. Bro, it sustains the sound, you stupid bitch. Oh my god, these moids, bro. It's like they need a diet. They all need a diet, bro. Dude, I don't need to explain shit to you, bro. It should be pretty self-explanatory. When you do the sustain pedal, it sustains the fucking sound. Fucking holds it longer, bitch. Drags it. Like, sustain. You fucking stupid spedtards, bro. Man, it's like, this is why nobody likes you guys. You guys are stupid, bro. You worthless men are what does a sustain? Bro, like, this is like asking, like, oh, what does the red stoplight mean? Or what does the green light mean? Go green light mean? It's like so stupid, bro. Or what does a red stop sign mean? It's like you guys are literally retarded, bro. Man, it's like fucking like just go to Mars, bro. Like you guys just need to go to Mars, man. Oh. Oh man, like just fuck off and go to Mars. Man, I can't wait till that fucking what's this shit called? Oh my god. Starlink takes off. I don't care whether you guys are I don't give a fuck whether you land or not. Just leave Earth. What a stupid question. Dude, it's like neither. If you guys are trying to ask me if I'm a liberal, yes I am. Of course I'm a liberal. Man, no, you guys are fucking delusional. Dude, no one would, first of all, I don't know who the fuck you guys are, bro. I'd celebrate, man. You guys are fucking, bro, this is what I mean by all men are rapist. Look at these fucking disgusting moids, bro. No, I wouldn't miss any of you guys. I don't know who the fuck you are. And if I ever saw you guys in real life, I'd call the cops or shoot you guys in the name of self-defense. Like, really, bro. No, bro, no one would miss you guys. You guys are annoying, bro. No, not a single fucking person on earth, or woman at least, would miss you guys, man. So unless you know men that would miss you, no one would miss you, because definitely not the woman. You guys are so stupid and annoying, bro. You guys need a diet. Go diet, man. Go diet. Like, when are you guys gonna diet, man? Where's my vape? Dude, like, I'm just gonna start saying that I'm 10 years old, so that any man that sexually harasses me, oh, you're a pedophile, you're a pedophile. Yeah, I'm 10. I'm fucking 10, bitch. So which one of you pieces of shit want to wind up on a list? I'm 10, bitch. Don't fuck with me, bitch. You trying to end up on a list? Fuck you, bitch. I'm fucking 10 years fucking old, bitch. Oh, pedophile. Pedophile. Fuck you, you fucking chomo. That's a fucking permanent ban. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you, bitch. Mods, get these fucking pedophiles. You predos deserve to be stoned. Fuck you, bitch. And you go to sleep, bitch. It's like, dude, it's like these males are so annoying, bro. It's like, yeah, I guess that's the best method. Girls, like, literally, if you're tired of men and you want to get rid of men, just claim that you're 10. Because what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Fucking show their pedophile colors? So, yeah, just claim you're 10. Yeah. You know, because men don't care if you say that they don't care if you lie and say you have a boyfriend. They don't care if you say you're gay. They don't give a fuck. So, surely saying that you're 10, surely that will work. Otherwise, you know what? That's the call to Chris Hansen. Perhaps Chris Hansen may need to be contacted. You know, I'm just gonna get my chocolate chips. Where's Chris Hansen, man? Where the fuck are my chocolate chips, bitch? Dude, what the fuck? I just had them. Like, okay. Where are my chocolate chips? Oh, here. Oh my god. Alright. I'm like actually like cracked up. I swear to God, dude. I swear to fucking God. Right. I can't find chips anywhere. Baby. Oh, please be here, man. Oh my god. You guys, like, I'm about to chimp out, man. Yeah, no, yeah, this. Yeah, this I'm about to check out. Oh my god, no, man. Dude, it's like I swear I just saw them like not that long ago. And I know I didn't finish them, so where the fuck are my chocolate chips? Pay. Man, it's probably my son, man, because like my son has just like negative energy. It's my son's fucking male negative energy. Fuck you, Paisley, man. It's your fault. Where did mommy's chocolate chips go? Dude, like what the fuck? It's like where'd they go, man? I just fucking had them. God. Like where did they go? And I remember eating because like you guys, there's something I love to do is I love eating chocolate chips, like from the I ate chocolate chips from the bag, like chocolate chips like from chocolate chip cookies. I love to eat them like straight from the bag. I can't fucking find them. Man. I have like some peppermint chocolate, so I'll eat that. And I'll just bite. Morning, I'm upset, dude. Fuck you guys. This is you guys' fault, bro. It's you guys' negative man energy. Fuck you, bitch. Oh, oh, fuck you, man. Yeah, all of my social medias, including the spicy content sites, located in the link me put in my chat. Oh, shit.
Of nowhere. And I know that the
No,
streaming
it's supposed to be
platforms
else. Holy shit. Well, I don't know if I want to watch that. Let's look at. Let's check. Or let's just go on the For You page. Millie Bobby Brown shuts down claims about her husband. I'm gonna watch that.
Hi, I'm
Oh,
Millie
yeah.
Bobby Brown.
Guys, so you guys know this is how I like to do it. Watch. What you do is, you're supposed to take chocolate. Like either it could be a chocolate bar, chocolate chips, but I like to, you don't eat a fucking cookie like normally. Like no, it's like you put extra chocolate. Like I never put peppermint chocolate. I'm like out of chocolate, but either like a piece of like a Hershey's candy bar or extra chocolate chips, and like. Oh my god, that's how it's done. Oh my god, man. Why are you guys getting arrested, man? Yeah, it's like this is typical male behavior. Creates a complete spectacle of himself. Zero self-awareness.
I'm not gonna lie. When did women become incapable of holding their own bags, car seats, and stuff? This stems from me holding all of my suitcases and bags and my kid, and people are like, your husband doesn't hold a single thing. All the top comments, she's young and doesn't get it, but she will. If he lets you carry stuff and he carries nothing, he doesn't love you. It's called chivalry. I think in 2 years, she will not feel this way. She's lost the plot. All I ever hear is her making excuses for her husband. You guys, we've got to talk about this Millie Bobby Brown situation because she is speaking out after the internet spent months dragging her husband for what many people call his lack of effort as a dad. And now her response has gone viral. It sparked a whole new debate about double standards because what started as criticism of her husband Jake supposedly never helping with the
Oh my
baby
God.
has quickly turned into a much bigger conversation
Yeah, he's a woman abuser.
about relationships, parenting, and whether people are holding men to the bare minimum. And honestly, the internet is completely split. Ever since Millie Bobby Brown and her husband Jake welcomed their daughter through adoption last year, fans have been paying very close attention to how the couple navigates parenthood. But some people became convinced that Jake wasn't pulling his weight after a series of photos and videos went viral online. For reference, these are the photos. And for a quick recap, Millie is now 22, but she married Jake, who's 24, in 2024 after dating for rough
She's only 22? What the fuck is she doing with her life? She's ruining her life.
3 years. Then in August of 2025, the both of them announced that they had welcomed their first child together through adoption. Now, long after, Millie opened up about motherhood in an interview with British Vogue, where she couldn't stop praising both her daughter and her husband. And I quote, she's taught us so much already. Perspective is a huge thing. The smaller things in life are so much more precious. Our days are filled with lots of cuddles and laughter and love. It's just endless joy. Millie also made it very clear that parenting in their household is a team effort, saying she and Jake are 50-50 on everything. Now, we all know how most women feel about that. A lot are against it. But she added, that's why I'm so grateful to have partnered with him in this life. He is just the most amazing dad. But despite Millie's glowing description of their relationship, the internet wasn't exactly convinced. The criticism really exploded after paparazzi footage surfaced showing Millie trying to navigate a crowd of photographers while carrying their baby. In the clip, Jake appeared to stand off to the side while gesturing for Millie and their daughter to walk ahead. Meanwhile, Millie could be seen warning photographers to keep their distance, and that's where people started asking questions. Adding fuel to the conversation, their friend Noah Schnapp appeared to be carrying what looked like a baby bag while following the both of them into the building. Jake, meanwhile,
Oh my
appeared
God,
empty-handed.
this is bad.
Paparazzi photos surfaced
So, like,
showing Millie
literally,
carrying multiple
some other
large
dude's
bags
carrying the
while
baby
also
bag.
holding the baby's car seat. Jake was
Oh my
photographed wearing
God.
a backpack and pushing what appeared to be the empty stroller base. Needless to say, social media had thoughts. So this photo of Millie Bobby Brown is going viral on Twitter because of everything she's carrying. So this tweet in particular says dating a man in 2025. And as you can see here, she's carrying her baby in a car seat, the diaper bag, and probably another diaper bag or her bag. And her husband is not helping her. Now, this is crazy. Like, he should be carrying a bag. Again, this is just like a small glimpse into
Fuck you,
their
worthless
24
men.
hours. So
This
we
is
know maybe
crazy.
that he is helping more than we see, and this is just like a quick picture, but the picture is crazy. There is also another video going viral of her carrying her daughter wrapped in a blanket and yelling at a paparazzi to leave her alone because she's with her daughter. And her husband's just behind her, like walking, doesn't say anything. And Noah, I don't even know what his last name is, from Stranger Things. He's carrying the baby's diaper bag, and he is the godfather of the baby. And then again, people were saying like her husband could be doing more, like pushing the paparazzi away, carrying the baby, carrying a bag, something. Again, I do think this is just a small glimpse into their relationship, and I do hope
he is helping more than what we see. And I hope she knows that she doesn't have to do everything by herself. Just because she's a mom, like the dad has just as an important role and he could be helping. So I hope that's the case.
The criticism only intensified
Oh,
when
I'm
Millie
sorry.
later posted
No,
an
I'm so
Instagram photo dump that accidentally
sorry. Oh
seemed
my
to
God,
reinforce
Face,
the
I'm so
narrative
sorry.
people had already created. One
Oh my
photo
God.
showed Millie looking
I'm
exhausted
sorry.
while pushing a stroller, while another showed
no.
Jake lounging comfortably in a chair. And this viral
I
post on
didn't
Twitter
mean to.
joked, "She's not helping man with those allegations. I'm crying." Another person wrote, "She really looks like a new
Yeah,
mom,
make sure you
and
guys check
he's
out my
just
new comps.
there."
I worked really
In
hard.
4 months, that became the internet's perception of their
Let me
relationship.
get this clip out.
Now, Millie is finally responding, you guys. And I feel like it kind of backfired. In this teaser clip from her upcoming appearance on Kylie Kelsey's Not Gonna Lie podcast, Millie directly addressed the criticism and made it clear that she thinks people are missing the point entirely. Check out what she had to say.
Hi, I'm Millie Bobby Brown, and I'm not gonna lie. When did women become incapable of holding their own bags, car seats, and stuff? This stems from me holding all of my suitcases and bags and my kid, and people are like, "Your husband doesn't hold a single thing." And I'm like, because I'm 3 miles ahead. I have been planning this all night. We're all about empowering girls, and like you got
No, this is misogyny, bro.
I'm like, okay, I can carry my own things. People are like, oh, where's your husband? And I'm like, I can also do it on my own. Nobody knows my husband. My husband is the most polite, sweet, like will do anything for me, but he
But
also
carry,
knows I'm capable. I
but
love
carry
it
a
so much.
bag.
I thought you would because you strike me as the same kind of person.
The number of times that I have people come up to me and be like, "Do you need help with that bag?" I'm like, "Hey guys, I really appreciate it, but if I needed help, I'd ask for it." The first person I'm asking, you guessed it, my husband. Thank you. I enjoy the idea of chivalry. I don't want it to be dead. I want there to be a degree of politeness and catering to your woman and whatever. But at the same time, don't act like I'm broken or dainty.
I'm not
I'm
broken.
Now, while plenty of people understood exactly what Millie was trying to say, others
Bro, it's
felt
about
like she was
respect,
overlooking
bro.
a major piece of the conversation. Because for many viewers, the criticism was
Exactly.
never about whether Millie was physically capable of carrying bags or taking care of things herself. It was
It's
about
disrespect.
partnership. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. "It's not about being incapable, it's about helping." Another person wrote, "It's not that we can't do it. It's that the load of carrying the family or holding down the fort is put on us from day one. We carried the baby for 9 months. He can carry the baby to the car now." Even Reddit chimed in. "Not sure if I can articulate my thoughts in a way that makes sense, but I think a lot of people seeing it are trying to defend the fact that in this day and age, women are not solely responsible for children and it should be shared between parents when possible. They overreact when they see photos of this couple, assuming he's a lazy man who doesn't help. The reality is, of course, that we have no idea how they co-parent or share responsibilities. The paparazzi photos we see are just a tiny portion of their lives together. Feels like there has been a bit of overreacting.
It's probably
trying to
worse
make sure
behind the
girls don't
scenes,
have
honestly. If
everything
it's,
and that men help with children.
you know, if the
That's
photos
something
are
I think we
that
should
bad,
be
yeah,
always talking
100% it's
about.
worse
Women can
behind the
do as
scenes.
much or as little as men, and it will be
Hi.
different in every partner.
Hello, baby girl.
Honestly, I agree, but others continued with
Dude,
the
yeah, no,
Women
he's
see it,
literally
women have
abusing
done
her.
all of
Guys,
the
this is,
parenting for
yeah,
so many
bro, like,
centuries.
honestly,
I'm going to
Millie
be
Bobby Brown is cooked. First of all, she's so young. It's like, why the fuck would you adopt a baby this young? It's like, what is wrong with you? It's just kind of, it's giving, like, unhinged, you know? And then number two, she's had, I've seen her on the news or on drama channels before a couple years back for dating an abusive guy. She has this habit of, like, you know, like when she was underage, like she dated like a guy that was way older and she had her parents give, so he didn't go to jail because her parents gave consent or something. Like, I don't know, it was weird, bro, but like, dude, there's something wrong with the girl. Like she needs to go to therapy. Like she's just a fucking weird girl, man. She's a strange one. But yeah, she's very odd, very odd. But no, seriously, like she's doing it to herself.
men do all the parenting for the rest of my lifetime to feel like it's approaching even an iota of fairness. I think it's also a case where people simply don't know what system to believe in. For example, take what Kelsey is saying. I fully understand her view that if she wants help, she'll ask, and offering can come off as offensive, but they're both reacting to the exact opposite, where not offering help is seen as offensive. And I've seen videos where people will record others to criticize how no one gave them a seat or helped with bags. So, what do people go with? If someone sees one with bags or in need of a seat, what do they do? We don't have a uniform or universal view on what is acceptable or benevolent, which results in people judging others on their own personal standards, and that will create criticism that is simply unfair. Other moms actually sided with Millie, and they completely understood where she was coming from. Yes, Millie, if I have to wait for my husband, we'll never get out of the door. Better believe I'm grabbing everything and rushing us out. Another comment, yes, this. I'm that girl. It's in my nature. I love doing things for myself, even though I have my husband. And that's really why this debate has become so polarizing, you guys. Some people see those photos and videos and think they reveal an imbalance in responsibility, but it's like we're only seeing a millisecond of their day. Others see a woman who is fully capable, highly independent, and frustrated that people automatically
Alright,
assume
back.
she needs rescuing anytime she's carrying something.
And make sure you guys are leaving thumbs up, and you guys do not leave this live stream. I need all the watch time hours I can get. We're trying to get this shit monetized, man. So you better not leave. Keep this shit open. I don't give a fuck. Keep it open. Let's see the Gen Z gender war.
We need stories. We need stories to understand ourselves.
There's a video called the Gen Z gender war.
Only creature.
Something is happening inside the youngest adult generation in American history. But it doesn't exactly register on the surface. It shows up in polling data, in birth rate tables, in hospital admission records, and in the outcomes of elections. It is quiet the way a hairline crack in a dam is quiet, right until the water starts moving and the entire thing bursts and destroys everything beneath it. In November 2024, young American women under 30 voted for Kamala Harris by margins approaching 30 points in key swing states like North Carolina and Pennsylvania. Young American men in those same states voted for Donald Trump by 20 points or more. Researchers at King's College London surveyed 30 countries in 2025 and found that young women ages 18 to 30 are now, on average, 30 percentage points more politically progressive than young men of the same age. That gap was 6 points in the year 2000. It took less than 25 years to multiply it by 5. In Germany, the gap among voters under 30 is also 30 points. In the United Kingdom, it's 25.
Okay.
In South Korea, the phrase the country started using around 2019 was gender war. And honestly, it wasn't a figure of speech. The General Social Survey, which has tracked American behavior for more than 50 years, found in 2024 that 24% of adults aged 18 to 29 had not had sex in the past year. In
Good.
2010, that number was 12%. The Kinsey Institute reports that 48% of Gen Z adults have never had sex at all.
Good.
That's compared to 26% of millennials, 14%.
You know, isn't that funny? But what happened to my body count's 100? You know, all of you men think that your body count's in the thousands and hundreds. I mean, looks like almost half of you guys are virgin losers, so you're all lying.
Per 1,000 women in 2025, the lowest.
What happened to women being whores, huh?
History. The country needs approximately 2.1 children per woman to hold its population steady without immigration, but the current rate is 1.6. South Korea sits roughly 15 years ahead of the United States on this trajectory. South Korea recorded a national fertility rate of 0.72 in 2023, the lowest figure ever measured for any country not actively fighting at war. At that sustained rate across generations, South Korea loses more than half its population by the end of this century. The South Korean government has poured the equivalent of billions of dollars into programs designed to reverse that slide. But birth rates kept falling. Young Korean men and young Korean women have stopped seeing each other as viable partners, and no financial incentive changed that. Now, the United States isn't South Korea, but the direction of travel is identical. Every mechanism driving this divergence is gaining force and not losing it. There's algorithmically reinforced media silos, a collapsed dating market, an education gap that almost no institution discusses openly, a debt load that makes traditional adulthood financially impossible, and a political climate that has turned gender itself into a proxy war. This is the story of how that happened, who built the conditions for it, and where it is going starts more than 175 years ago in a small town in upstate New York. In July 1848, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott organized a convention in Seneca Falls, New York. 3 people attended. The central demand was, at the time, considered so radical that most newspapers mocked it openly. Women should have the legal right to vote. Stanton modeled her declaration on the language of the Constitution. It took 72 more years for the 19th Amendment to pass in 1920 and grant women's suffrage across the country. First wave feminism secured that legal foundation, the right to own property, to vote, to exist as a full citizen under the law. The second wave started in 1963 when a Massachusetts housewife named Betty Friedan published a book called The Feminine Mystique. Friedan had surveyed Smith College graduates 15 years after their graduation and found that despite comfortable lives and good educations, the majority reported a deep, nameless dissatisfaction that nobody in their social world discussed. She called it the problem that has no name. The book sold 1.4 million copies in 3 years. It catalyzed a decade of legislation: the Equal Pay Act of 1963, Title IX in 1972, and Roe v. Wade in 1973. The defining slogan of that era was "the personal is political," a phrase that reframed domestic life as a site of power as consequential as Congress. The third wave arrived in the 1990s and introduced the concept of intersectionality, a term coined by legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. Crenshaw argued that race, gender, and class did not operate as separate systems. They overlapped, and overlooking those overlaps left entire categories of women behind. Third wave feminism embraced sexual diversity and pushed against the relative narrow definition of womanhood that earlier waves had assumed as the default. The fourth wave started around 2012 and lives entirely online. On October 15th, 2017, actress Alyssa Milano posted a tweet asking women who had experienced sexual harassment or assault to reply with the words, "Me too." Within 24 hours, the tweet generated 12 million Facebook engagements. The hashtag went global within a week. Harvey Weinstein lost his career and later went to prison, and so did dozens of other powerful men in media, politics, and business. The hashtag #MeToo movement accelerated something that had been building for years: a massive, coordinated shift among young women toward progressive political identity. The counter movement to fourth wave feminism grew in the same digital environment, just in different forums and servers. In 2008, a subreddit called r/men's rights launched. In 2012, a New Hampshire state legislator named Robert Fisher founded r/the red pill, borrowing the metaphor from The Matrix. Most men, Fisher argued, walked through a constructed false reality, and waking up meant accepting uncomfortable truths about gender dynamics. The subreddit grew to over 300,000 subscribers before Reddit quarantined it in 2018. 3 communities came to be called the Manosphere, a loose ecosystem of men's rights activists, pickup artists, men who had sworn off relationships with women entirely, and involuntary celibates who attributed their isolation to female preferences. The intellectual anchor for much of this was Warren Farrell, a sociologist who had sat on the board of the National Organization for Women in New York in the early 1970s before shifting his views entirely. His 1993 book, The Myth of Male Power, argued that men faced systematic disadvantage in family courts, in education, in health outcomes, and in cultural representation, and those disadvantages received a fraction of the public attention devoted to disadvantages faced by women. Farrell's work was careful academic sociology. The Manosphere took those arguments far beyond what Farrell intended. The figure who took the Manosphere to mass scale in the 2020s was Andrew Tate, a British-Romanian kickboxer with a modest fighting career who discovered that social media algorithms rewarded him for saying increasingly extreme things about women, about men, and about Western civilization. By 2022, Tate had accumulated 13.6 billion views on TikTok. Studies in the UK found that 1 in 5 men aged 16 to 29 held a positive view of him. In Australia, 28% of teenage boys said
And
they
those are
liked
who will
him
just
in
admit it.
2023.
The truth
United
is, it's
States,
100%. The rest are just lying.
Positive opinion per YouGov.
Because
In
they know
December
they should be
2022,
ashamed.
Romanian authorities arrested Tate and his brother on charges of human trafficking, and forming an organized crime group. Tate denied all charges. As of 2025, legal proceedings were ongoing. His supporters framed the arrest as political persecution of a man who told inconvenient truths. His critics saw it as confirmation of exactly the danger embedded in his worldview. But his reach among young men did not collapse after the arrest. It actually grew. The tension between the legitimate
God.
grievances of men who
course.
feel culturally abandoned and the movements that monetize those grievances into outright misogyny runs through every section of this story. In 1970, men were 58% of college students in the United States. Women were 42%. That ratio inverted gradually and then rapidly. By 2015, women constitute approximately 60% of US college students and men 40%. There are now 2.4 million more women than men on American university campuses. Women aged 25 to 34 with a bachelor's degree outnumber men in the same age group 47 to 37%. For every 100 women who earn a bachelor's degree, only 74 men do. At some historically black colleges and universities, the ratio approaches 2 women for every 1 man. Four-year graduation rates tell the same story, with 54% for women and 43% for men. This is the single most statistically distinctive structural trend in the Gen Z gender divide, and public discourse around it is almost entirely non-existent. When women lagged behind men in education 50 years ago, the country built dedicated federal programs to close the gap. Title IX passed in 1972. Federal investment in female educational attainment followed. The gap closed in roughly 20 years. The reverse gap has been building for a similar length of time with no equivalent policy response. The researcher who had examined this most rigorously is Richard Reeves, formerly at the Brookings Institution and then at the American Institute for Boys and Men. His 2022 book of Boys and Men documented the mechanisms where modern K-12 education systematically disadvantages boys. Boys developed verbal and executive function skills roughly 12 to 18 months later than girls on average. Zero tolerance discipline policies, reduced physical activity, and classroom structures that reward sitting still and expressing emotion through language fall harder on typical male developmental patterns. Boys are diagnosed with ADHD at twice the rate of girls and are far more likely to receive medication rather than instructional adjustments. Then boys are more likely to drop out of high school. Men who choose against college are not always making a poor decision, though. A skilled electrician, plumber, or HVAC technician earns $50,000 to $80,000 a year without 4 years of tuition debt. Vocational community college enrollment surged nearly 20% since 2020. As of 2025, 42% of Gen Z adults were working in or pursuing blue-collar careers, and Gen Z men drive that number disproportionately. The female side of that education gap carries its own complications, though. Gen Z women are accumulating credentials faster than the economy is producing jobs that match those credentials. A Bloomberg analysis of government employment data found Gen Z female college graduates accepting lower paying or part-time roles at higher rates than their male counterparts who hold out for better compensated positions. More credentials do not automatically produce better outcomes when the labor market absorbs them at a slower rate. The education gap feeds every other gap. Who goes to college determines who enters which labor markets, who earns what, and critically, who Gen Z members identify as potential partners. Researchers on assortative mating, the documented tendency to partner with someone of roughly equivalent educational status, find that a widening female credential advantage produces a growing structural mismatch in the dating pool. Women with advanced degrees report shrinking pools of men they consider educationally comparable. Men without degrees find themselves below the stated preferences of a growing share of available women. Both observations are documented in the same peer-reviewed literature. Does that mean women are making more? Not necessarily yet, but the best way to make sure they're managing their money better than men is by using DollarWise. And luckily, both men
Oh
and
my
women
God, I'm
want to use
tired of
DollarWise
this
equally.
fucking
And that's
ending
because there are
odds,
tens of
dude.
thousands of monthly active users for a
You
reason. These people
bitch.
are changing their lives 0.9 million.
Oh, and then a real one.
The goals that socialists are trying to achieve
million in 2021 and fell to 9.2 million by the third quarter of 2025, a 7% year-over-year decline. A 2025 Forbes Health survey found more than half of Gen Z reports feeling burned out often or always while using dating apps, the highest rate of any age group. An Axios and Generation Lab survey found 79% of US college students open dating apps less than once a month. The apps didn't cause the underlying disconnect, but they did amplify it. OkCupid data suggests women on dating platforms engage positively with approximately 14% of male profiles. Men engage positively with approximately 46% of female profiles. That asymmetry means the typical male user expresses interest in nearly half the women he encounters and receives almost nothing in return. The typical female user confronts the opposite: inundation with messages and matches, a large proportion of which are low quality or openly hostile. Men on apps experience persistent rejection. Women on apps experience overwhelming volume and exhaustion. The system fails both groups at the same time, though through opposite mechanisms. 44% of Gen Z men report they have never asked someone out in person, relying entirely on apps and text messages, citing social anxiety and fears of rejection. 44% of Gen Z men did not date at all during their teenage years. For boomer men at the same age, that figure was 20%. The political dimension of this collapse is new and severe. Before 2017, political affiliation rarely appeared in dating app profiles and was rarely cited as a deal breaker. By 2024, surveys found that a majority of Gen Z women listed political compatibility as a top 3 requirement in a partner. The 21-point Trump approval gap between Gen Z men and Gen Z women, with 43% approval among men versus 24% approval among women per the 2025 NBC Stay Tuned poll, functions as a dating compatibility number as much as a political one. Out of this environment, two of the most striking cultural movements of the 21st century emerged at the same time and from opposite directions. The 4B movement originated in South Korea around 2015 in radical feminist online communities responding to an epidemic of digital gender-based violence. That epidemic included widespread deepfake pornography targeting women, a severe gender wage gap, and corporate cultures that fired women simply for liking feminist posts on social media. The name comes from 4 Korean
Wait, what
words,
the
each
fuck?
prefixed with the syllable B, meaning
They're
no,
firing
no
women for being
dating men,
feminists?
no sex with men, no marriage, and no childbirth. After Donald Trump won the 2024 presidential election, Google searches for the 4B movement in the
All right,
United
guys,
States
just go
spiked
report
to
them then.
record highs within
If
hours.
there's
A single
anybody
tweet
talking shit,
explaining
go
the
fucking
movement
report their
received
channel, get it
17
taken
million
down.
views on the night of November 5th.
Simple.
For a subset of progressive American women, the 4B movement became shorthand for a position they were already arriving at. Heterosexual partnership was incompatible with their politics in the current climate. The actual number of American women who formally adopted the 4B framework numbered in the thousands, not millions. But its symbolic resonance was enormous regardless. It captured the mood of a segment of Gen Z women who had concluded that dating, marriage, and motherhood amounted to political concessions. On the male side, the parallel movements were MGTOW, which stands for Men Going Their Own Way, and the more recent phenomenon researchers call the Passport Bros. MGTOW originated around 2001, framing itself as a deliberate rejection of relationships with women to protect men from the perceived legal and financial risk of marriage and divorce. By 2019, the r/MGTOW subreddit had over 100,000 members before Reddit banned the community in 2021 for content promoting hatred. The Passport Bros phenomenon operates differently. Driven by YouTube vloggers and online forums, the trend involves American and British men traveling or relocating to countries like Thailand, Colombia, the Philippines, and Brazil to seek romantic partners. The explicit argument is that Western women, shaped by feminist culture, hold unrealistic expectations, and that men can leverage the purchasing power of a U.S. passport to find more traditional, family-oriented partners elsewhere. Critics call it a modern iteration of sex tourism built on colonial economic disparity. But honestly, I have a hard time finding anything serious when they throw the word colonial in it. On the other side, the men who participate in it call it a rational response to a market that has failed them. Local populations in destination countries frequently respond with hostility and organized protest. The resulting conflicts go viral repeatedly, and each cycle deepening the gender divide among audiences back home. A 2025 survey by King's College London and Ipsos across 29 countries found that 33% of Gen Z men believe a wife should obey her husband. 33% believe a husband should have the final word on a major family decision. Only 18% of Gen Z women held the same views. Sociologists note that these figures place Gen Z men significantly more conservative on gender roles than baby boomer men, among whom only 13% agreed that a wife should obey her husband. The pattern researchers observe is that economic precarity, defined as the inability to fulfill a traditional breadwinner role, correlates with rigid idealization of that role. Online content accelerates both the precarity and the idealization. One cultural movement from 2024 illustrates how quickly this divide surfaces in everyday digital life. A TikTok creator asked women a simple question. Alone in the woods, forced to choose between a random unknown man and a wild bear, which would they pick? Millions of women answered the bear. The video generated hundreds of millions of views across platforms. For the women,
Wondering how I got here? Well, you get a taste for something different. Different is all yours.
Trident. Try different. Women who answered bear, the point was about the lived experience of constant threat assessment around unknown men and the statistical reality of who commits violence against women. For any men who watched those clips, the response felt like a collective verdict declaring them dangerous by category. Maybe both reactions were sincere, but they talked past each other almost completely, and the algorithm served both reactions back to their respective audiences as confirmation of what they already believed. Marriage rates have tracked this deterioration precisely. The US marriage rate fell from 10.6 per 1,000 people in 1970 to 6.2 in 2024. The median age at first marriage reached 30.2 for men and 28.6 for women in 2024, both all-time highs. Projections suggest that only 56 to 58% of Gen Z will ever marry, compared to 87 to 92% of baby boomers. Single-person households in the United States reached a record 38.5 million in 2024, representing 29% of all households. In 2000, the political ideology gap between young American men and young American women was roughly 6 percentage points. By 2024, that gap reached 15 points, with 40% of women ages 18 to 29 identifying as liberal, compared to 25% of men in the same bucket per Gallup. Daniel Cox of the American Enterprise Institute described the scale as saying, "At no point in the past quarter century has there been such a rapid divergence between the political views of young men and young women." The 2024 presidential election made the scale of this divergence visible in the hard numbers. Donald Trump's campaign made a deliberate calculation to reach young men through the media they consumed. Trump appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast in October 2024. That episode generated nearly 60 million YouTube views. He appeared on shows hosted by Aiden Ross, Logan Paul, and Theo Vaughn. His campaign logged appearances on more than a dozen podcasts that researchers classify as adjacent to the manosphere. Navigator Research, sampling 5,000 voters, found young women under 30 backed Harris by 24 points, while young men backed Trump by 16, a gap of 40 points. In North Carolina specifically, young women went Harris plus 33. Young men went Trump plus 23. Young men had backed Biden over Trump by 8 points in 2020. 4 years later, they backed Trump over Harris by 16 points. That is a 24-point swing among a single demographic group in a single election cycle. The Survey Center on American Life found that nearly half of Gen Z men report believing they personally face gender-based discrimination, the highest rate of any male age group ever recorded. The Movember Institute found in 2025 that nearly 2/3 of men ages 16 to 25 regularly consumed content from what researchers call men and masculine influencers. Economy and cost of living ranked as the top issue for 31% of young men. Among young men who cited immigration as their primary concern, Trump won by nearly 70 points. Young women's movement leftward followed a parallel logic. After the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade in the Dobbs decision in 2022, 76% of Gen Z women said they wanted abortion to remain legal, compared to 59% of men, a 17-point gap on a single issue that carries direct personal stakes for women in ways it does not for men. Threats to democracy ranked as the top concern for 22% of women. College-educated white women backed Harris by 17 points in 2024, extending a shift that had grown from 7 points for Hillary Clinton in 2016 to 9 points for Biden in 2020. The The pattern the United States displayed in 2024 repeated across the developed world. In the 2025 German federal election, 1 in 4 men ages 18 to 24 voted for the AfD, which stands for Alternative for Germany, making it the most popular party among young German men. In the 2024 UK general election, 12% of men under 24 voted for the Reform Party compared to 6% of women. Across Scandinavia, Southern Europe, and South Korea, the same generational gender split appeared in election results with striking consistency. A values divergence sits beneath all of the voting data. Among Gen Z women who voted for Harris, having children ranked as the second to last item in their personal definition of success. Among Gen Z men who voted for Trump, having children ranked first. That gap reflects a fundamental disagreement about what life is organized around. In 2024, researchers from University College London and the University of Kent built TikTok accounts designed to mimic the behavior of vulnerable teenage boys interacting with content about loneliness, self-improvement, and masculinity. Within 7 days, the TikTok recommendation algorithm had escalated the proportion of misogynistic content in those accounts' feeds from 13 to 56%, fourfold in 1 week. A separate study by Dublin City University found that manosphere content reached young male test accounts on TikTok after an average of 15 minutes of ordinary browsing. On YouTube Shorts, the same research found 61.5% of recommended content meeting researchers' criteria for toxic material. The radicalization pipeline works through subtlety. The content does not begin with violent or openly hateful material. It begins with videos about loneliness, about lifting weights, about self-improvement, or about feeling overlooked.
All right, so you're shopping for a new pack and you're not quite sure what size and liters to get? We're here to help you figure that out. The Scala comes in 4 sizes, 2 meant for backpacking and 2 meant for day hiking. Right now I've got the 32 liter on with me today. This is the smallest. This is great for day hikes. Big enough for a couple sets of clothes, some food and water. If you need a little bit larger capacity for a day hike, a longer day hike, or in a colder climate, the 40 liters is probably the go-to. For backpacking trips, in a warm climate for a shorter duration, the 50 liters is probably totally adequate. But if it is colder or you are going for up to a week, you're probably going to need to bump up to the 60 liter.
Take a drive down memory lane at Roger Beasley Mazda as we kick off 55 years serving Central Texas. Since 1972, Roger Beasley has maintained Mazda's driving passion and commitment to exceptional family-friendly customer service. This legacy continues with Mazda's innovative premium lineup and industry-leading safety. Celebrate today, get a great deal, and drive home a better experience. Now 4 locations with the opening of our Leander dealership, RogerBeasleyMazda.com.
Overlooked in school or at work. Each step feels individually reasonable, and then the cumulative destination is extreme. The algorithms serve different content to women on the same platforms. Feminist empowerment, body image discussions, emotional processing of relationship breakdowns, and videos framing heterosexual men as uniformly threatening or socially incompetent populated the female feed. Neither feed reflected the actual distribution of human beings. Both reflected the content that held viewers' attention longest. Jordan Peterson, a Canadian professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, began posting YouTube lectures around 2013. His argument was that young men lacked a coherent framework for their lives, that they needed to take personal responsibility, and that the dismantling of traditional structures had left them without meaningful models. His 2018 book, 12 Rules for Life, sold over 5 million copies. UK polling found 42% of Gen Z men held a positive view of him. Peterson's influence occupies a different tier from the rest of the manosphere ecosystem. His core message emphasizes discipline, responsibility, and intellectual engagement rather than resentment of women. The Fresh and Fit podcast, hosted by 2 Miami-based creators known as Fresh Prince and Fit Bros, built a large audience by hosting live debates with women about dating standards and using those debates to frame female preferences as evidence of female pathology. Patrick Bet David, whose financial and business content frequently intersects with men's grievance culture, built a platform of millions. Sneeko, who grew up consuming Tate content and converted to Islam partly through that influence, draws millions of teenage viewers. A subset of this culture called called Looks Maxing emerged among young men who saw extreme physical modification as their only leverage in a dating market that rejected them. The New York Times profiled a 24-year-old creator called Clavicular who claimed he began using steroids at 14, experimented with crystal methamphetamine for weight management, and posted videos advocating bone smashing.
You don't see pictures of me bone smashing? You don't have to do it. And then you're hitting real hard. And what this is doing is this is creating microfractures.
The practice of striking one's own face with a hard object to produce a more defined jawline. Clinical psychologists identify looks maxing as body dysmorphia, driven by genuine social isolation and the statistically brutal rejection rates young men face in dating apps. On the opposite side of the cultural landscape, the dominant pop figures of Gen Z addressed the same fracture from the female vantage point. Taylor Swift's evolution from country singer to explicit feminist cultural icon stands as one of the most significant political journeys in modern pop history. Her fourth consecutive Album of the Year Grammy in 2024 provided the backdrop to a cultural moment in which her relationship with Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce became a political flashpoint. Conservative commentators criticized NFL television coverage for featuring her too prominently. Liberal commentators treated any criticism of that coverage as evidence of cultural misogyny. Same relationship and the same television broadcast processed through entirely separate frameworks depending on who was watching. Olivia Rodrigo performed at Kamala Harris campaign events and built an audience of tens of millions on musical explorations of rage, heartbreak, and female autonomy. Chappell Roan broke through in 2024 with aggressively queer feminist pop and became one of the first major artists in years to publicly establish limits with fan culture, refusing parasocial ownership of her public identity. In hip-hop, the Kendrick Lamar versus Drake conflict of 2024 carried significant gender subtext. Lamar's track, Not Like Us, accused Drake of predatory behavior toward women. Audiences chose sides along lines that, in many cases, tracked a broader gender divide, who each group considered the primary cultural threat shaped which artists they defended. UCLA researchers analyzing hip-hop lyrics across 50 years found that female artists used derogatory language at higher rates than male artists, but in context of reclamation rather than degradation. Separate natural language processing analysis of more than 250,000 songs found sexist content in popular music increasing over time, concentrated primarily in male artists charting songs. A content analysis of the top songs of 2024 found 72.5% contained sexually objectifying phrases directed at women. So both findings are real, and each side of the gender divide gravitates toward the one that confirms the existing position. And your position right now is that you don't have enough money. It's the same for every American. But luckily, I'm going to give you $200 for free right now. Listen, Chime wants you to use their bank, and they will give you $200 to sign up and connect direct deposit. So what's the downside? Really, there is none, because they have a nation-leading high-yield savings rate. They want you to use their platform, so they give you free money. And then they get you to use their platform, and then I get free money because you signed up. All three of us win. It's incredible. Check them out. There's literally no reason not to. Get your free $200 right now. Chime.com/Caleb or click the link below.
Meet ModMax. Contemporary design pairs nicely with the flexibility and customization of this modular sectional. Shop ModMax at your local Ashley.
Every ideological, cultural, and romantic pattern in this documentary has a financial foundation. Gen Z entered adulthood into the worst economic conditions for young people since the Great Depression. Gen Z adults ages 18 to 29 collectively carry $1.12 trillion in debt per the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The average Gen Z personal debt loan runs approximately $94,000 compared to $59,000 for millennials and $53,000 for Gen Z at equivalent ages. 41% of Gen Z adults run out of money before the end of each month. Only 22% describe themselves as financially stable. Home ownership historically served as the primary vehicle for building generational wealth in the United States, and for most of this generation, it sits beyond reach. Median home prices exceeded $420,000 in 2025. Only 7.6% of Gen Z currently holds a mortgage. 55% of Gen Z adults cite housing costs as a primary barrier to marriage. 64% cite student loan debt. And the student loan lone figure here carries an important context because women hold approximately 63 to 65% of the country's $1.66 trillion in outstanding student loan debt, primarily because women attend college at higher rates. That is a direct cultural consequence of the education reversal described earlier. More credentials accumulated at a higher cost, and a labor market that does not always compensate them proportionally. The raw gender wage gap shows women earning approximately 85 cents per dollar men earn across all full-time workers, according to Pew Research in 2024. For workers ages 25 to 35, the gap narrows to 95 cents. When researchers control for job title, hours worked, experience, industry, and education, PayScale's 2026 analysis found women earning approximately 99 cents per dollar men earn in truly equivalent roles. The debate over what explains the remaining gap, whether it reflects ongoing discrimination or reflects occupational choices that are themselves constrained by structural factors like childcare costs and hiring biases, is one of the most contested empirical questions in labor economics, and the data supports substantive arguments on both sides. The U.S. national debt stood at approximately $38.98 trillion as of April 2026, according to the Joint Economic Committee. The Congressional Budget Office projects debt held by the public rising from 101% of GDP in 2026 to 120% by 2036. The federal government spent approximately $10 billion per week in 2025 on interest payments alone. By 2051, net interest payments are projected to become the single largest category of federal spending, surpassing Social Security. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, has compared the fiscal trajectory to a slow-motion heart attack in which government investment capacity gets strangled by debt service. For the gender wars, this matters because every policy mechanism that could reduce financial pressure on young people, from affordable housing programs to child care subsidies to student loan debt relief, competes for space in a budget that debt service increasingly consumes. 45% of Gen Z adults do not expect to receive any Social Security benefits when they retire. 70% believe benefits will be reduced before they collect. These are not necessarily just cynics. These are young people who have read the Social Security Administration's own actuarial projections. And there's a divorce data point that generates unusually uncomfortable conversations across the political spectrum. As of 2023, 45% of mothers in the United States served as the primary economic providers for their families. Census data from 2012 to 2023 shows heterosexual married couples where the woman earns more than the men divorce at a rate of 31 per 1,000, compared to 11 per 1,000 for the male primary earner households. In single income households where the woman is the sole earner, the divorce rate exceeds 54 per 1,000 versus 20% per 1,000 for the reverse arrangement. Female breadwinners represent 16% of all households, but account for 42% of all divorces. University of Chicago economist Marianne Bertrand interprets this as evidence that gender norms create relationship stress when partners deviate from them. Others interpret it as evidence that financially independent women leave unhappy marriages at higher rates precisely because they can. But the census data supports both readings. Gen Z is the most mentally distressed generation in American history by virtually every metric the country uses to measure psychological health. 61% have been medically diagnosed with anxiety. 42% battle depression. Those figures come from the Walton Family Foundation's national survey and replicate consistently across independent research institutions. The mental health crisis is gendered in two different directions at the same time. The 2023 CDC Youth Risk Behavior Survey found 53% of high school girls reported persistent sadness or hopelessness, nearly double the 28% among boys. Pew Research found teen girls significantly more likely than boys to report that social media has damaged their mental health, body image, and their self-confidence. Jonathan Haidt at New York University argued in his 2024 book, The Anxious Generation, that the smartphone and social media revolution hit girls harder, specifically because girls' social lives are more reputation dependent and more vulnerable to the dynamics of public judgment that social media optimizes around. The male side of the mental health crisis is severe, but far less covered. American men account for approximately 75% of all suicide deaths in the United States, despite comprising 50% of the population. The CDC reports male suicide rates at 22.7 per 100,000 compared to 5.9 per 100,000 for women, a ratio of nearly 4 to 1. Among men ages 25 to 34, suicide is the second leading cause of death. Men seek mental health treatment less frequently, maintain fewer close friendships as they age, and rely more heavily on a romantic partner as their sole source of emotional support. As
Being a landlord means wearing a lot of hats. But keeping up with leads, applications, and tenant messages, that hat can feel way too heavy. That's why Avail created Avail Messages, your all-in-one in-app hub for communication. Now, every conversation, from your very first lead to signed leases to ongoing tenant needs, lives in one simple, organized channel. No more switching between apps, no more lost emails, just faster responses, smoother communication, and happier renters. Avail Messages keeps the conversation going through every stage of the rental lifecycle, helping you stay connected, organized, and in control. Ready to manage your rentals like a pro? Sign up for free at avail.co and start using Avail Messages today.
Ready to start a hands-on career? At Universal Technical Institute, you can get focused automotive training and use tools and technology found in the field. And here's the best part. You can
Dating and marriage rates decline, that last pattern becomes a structural problem with no easy resolution. Gallup finds 25% of men under 35 report feeling lonely compared to 18% of women in the same bracket. Average weekly time young adults spend with friends collapsed from 12.8 hours in 2012 to 5.1 hours in 2024. And that number cuts across both genders. The religious landscape mirrors and amplifies the rest of the picture. Gen Z is the least religious generation in American history. 47% have not attended a religious service in more than 6 months, and only 45% identify as Christian, down from 55% of millennials. The secularization trend is not gender neutral, though. Because the Public Religion Research Institute found the share of women ages 18 to 24 identifying as religiously unaffiliated climbed from 29% in 2013 to 40% in 2024, but men in the same bracket moved from 35% to 36%. Young women drove the secularization statistic almost entirely. Religion historically functioned as a shared moral grammar for relationships, a set of default assumptions about obligation, family structure, and meaning that reduced the amount of explicit negotiation couples had to perform. When those shared frameworks disappear, couples negotiate everything from first principles, money, roles, children, and fidelity sacrifice. That negotiation is harder under stress, and financial stress is the defining condition of Gen Z adulthood. A subset of Gen Z men has moved in the opposite direction from secularization, toward highly structured traditionalist religious frameworks. Conservative Catholicism, certain strands of evangelical Christianity, and Orthodox Judaism have attracted young men who describe seeking clear moral order in a culture they experience as chaotic. Sociologists note that earlier periods of intense cultural disruption, industrialization most notably, produced identical patterns of male movement towards structured religious institutions. In the workplace, the hashtag #MeToo era produced consequences few anticipated. Senior male managers in finance, technology, and law began quietly declining to mentor junior female employees privately, to meet one-on-one with women, or to travel with female colleagues. The pattern became known informally as the Pence effect, named after Vice President Mike Pence's stated personal policy of not dining alone with any woman other than his wife. The practical result is that young women entering male-dominated industries lose access to the informal sponsorship networks that have historically been the fastest path to advancement, an ironic consequence of a harassment avoidance instinct that, in practice, disadvantaged the women those instincts were designed to protect. The digital cancel culture component reached one of the most striking expressions in January 2022 when a New York City furniture designer became known online as West Elm Caleb. Women who had separately dated the same man connected through TikTok and shared accounts of being loved bombed, showered with affection early in a relationship, and then ghosted. The conversation escalated into a viral campaign that spread his full name, workplace, LinkedIn profile, phone number, and home address across a hashtag that generated over 60 million views. Multiple women reported parallel patterns, independently across accounts that corroborated each other's timelines. The scale of the public response illustrated something new about the digital environment. Platforms had handed ordinary people a mechanism for extrajudicial punishment calibrated to maximum reputational damage, and engagement algorithms amplified it because conflict held attention. Young Men Watching registered the episode as evidence that dating had become legally and reputationally dangerous. Young Women Watching it registered it as the accountability mechanism that formal institutions have failed to provide. The data makes three distinct figures pretty damn clear. The first runs along the current trajectory without major structural intervention. By 2030, men represent fewer than 38% of college students. By 2032, the political gender gap functions as a genuine load-bearing feature of American democracy. Young women anchor the Democratic coalition, young men anchor Republican or reform-type movements. American politics begins organizing around gender rather than class or religion. The median age at first marriage crosses 32 for men and 30 for women by 2035. The percentage of Americans who never marry exceeds 30%. The fertility rate falls further toward the South Korean model. The demographers who study this most closely treat South Korea as the leading indicator for where the United States is pointed. South Korea's fertility rate of 0.72 in 2013 is the lowest ever recorded for a country not at war. The South Korean government has run explicit pronatalist programs costing hundreds of billions of won, with almost no measurable effect on birth rates because the fertility crisis there does not stem from a lack of financial incentives. Educated young Korean men and women have developed expectations of each other so incompatible that partnership among urban educated Koreans has effectively collapsed as a norm. South Korean sociologists have stated plainly in peer-reviewed research that at current rates, demographic extinction of Korean culture within a few generations is a mathematical possibility. But the second future involves partial convergence driven by exhaustion and institutional adaptation. The economic and mental health costs of mass disconnection are becoming difficult to ignore at the policy level. Richard Reeves at the American Institute for Boys and Men proposes specific evidence-based interventions, like enrolling boys in school 1 year later to account for developmental differences with girls, building male-focused mentorship programs in secondary education, and investing in rebranding health, education, and social work careers to attract men into professions that currently skew almost entirely female. The European Union's Digital Services Act has begun imposing algorithmic accountability requirements on platforms. If enforcement reduces the efficiency of radicalization pipelines, they'll drift right.
All right, check this out. Yeti just made the coolest technical pack I've ever seen. This is called the Scala. This is a 50-liter pack right here. So I can get into the sleeping bag compartment either through the front. It also has this additional zipper pocket on the outside. It's got two front stash pockets, extra large bottle pockets on the side. So I can either put a bottle in vertically like that, but I love the ability to put it on the side and I can access this without having to take the pack off. So I can just kind of rip this lid open. And then totally unique to this pack is the ability to open it from the front. This thing is fully adjustable. It has curvature on the harness, which spreads a ton of the weight out. I've been lucky to wear a lot of packs in my life and been a lot of places, and this is by far the most comfortable bag I've ever worn.
Word may moderate over time, and the female sprint towards the left may also come back to normal. The third future is fragmentation, a gender war abandoned rather than resolved, with each side retreating into parallel arrangements that minimize cross-gender contact. Early indicators of this are already present in the rising adoption of AI-powered companionship tools by people who find human dating too exhausting or too risky. Replica and similar services report substantial Gen Z user bases. That path reduces surface area conflict in the short term while deepening alienation over decades, compressing the birth rate further and eventually delivering to the institutions of Social Security and Medicare a worker to retiree ratio that cannot sustain those programs. The uncomfortable conclusion across all three futures is that both sides of this divide are describing real problems. Young women face real structural barriers in workplaces, real physical risk in dating spaces, and a political environment where the jobs decision they vehemently disagree of. Young men face a real educational crisis, a suicide rate nearly 4 times that of women that receives a fraction of the comparable public attention, documented disadvantage in family court proceedings, and a cultural environment that frequently frames their gender as the pathology requiring management rather than a population also in genuine need of support. The people who profit most from keeping both set of grievances unresolved are the influencers, the engagement algorithms, and the political consultants who have discovered that gender resentment drives drives donations and viewer retention more reliably than any policy platform. Every institutional actor with structural power in this system has financial or political incentives to keep the conflict running. The people with no structural power in the system are the young men and young women living inside it, lonelier, more indebted, more anxious, and less likely to form families than any prior American generation. Consuming content that tells them the person on the other side of the gender divide is the reason their lives are not working. South Korea has spent billions trying to reverse this with cash. It didn't work. The U.S. national debt stands at $38.98 trillion, and the interest alone costs $10 billion per week. The fiscal space for large-scale structural intervention doesn't exist. The possibility that remains is the one that has always existed in the end of a disruptive historical period. Enough people haven't lived through the dysfunction long enough, including it is not worth sustaining and moving slowly without an announcements back toward each other. The data says that possibility remains real. 55% of Gen Z adults cite housing costs as their primary barrier to marriage, and 64% cite student debt. Gen Z, despite everything documented in this video, reports wanting marriage at higher rates than millennials did at the same age. The desire for partnership didn't disappear, but the infrastructure that once made partnership financially accessible did. Whether that infrastructure gets rebuilt, whether the economic, educational, and algorithmic conditions driving this generation apart get addressed seriously or get left to compound, is one of the most defining questions over the next 20 years. That conversation is almost entirely absent from the mainstream political discourse. We'll see if it gets there, though. I'll be candid. Front Page loses money. The cost of research, audio editing, video editing, and everything else that goes into this project is substantial. I believe the neutral and factual perspective we bring to these topics are important in today's culture of endless misinformation for political or financial gain. If you support the journalism we do here, please consider clicking the join button or the channel membership link in the description or pinned comment below and join in with everyone else supporting this project. Every single supporter makes a difference and helps us continue Front Page. Click join or the link in the description or pinned comment below. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.